And calls this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is an open meeting of the Seward, Nebraska governing body. The city of Seward abides by the Nebraska Open Meetings Act and conducting business. A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is displayed on the north wall of this meeting room facility as required. Disclosure of meeting recording processes is posted in the meeting room. A participant sign-in sheet is available for use by any citizen addressing the council. Presenters shall approach the podium, state their name and address for the clerk's record, and are asked to limit remarks to 5 minutes. All remarks shall be directed to the mayor, who shall determine by whom any appropriate response shall be made. The city of Seward reserves the right to adjust the order of items on this agenda if necessary, and may elect to take action on any of the items listed. Please call the roll.
Leeske, Beck.
Here.
Camper.
Here.
Fritz.
Here.
Pike.
Here.
Singleton. Schmidt.
Here.
Cans.
Here. All right. Item number 1, consideration of approval of draft minutes of June 2nd, 2015.
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor of the motion, Beck. Camper. Fritz. Pike. Schmidt. Cans. Motion carries.
Item number 2, consideration of consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor of the motion, Cans. Schmidt. Pike. Fritz. Camper. Beck. Motion carries.
Item number 3, confirmation of mayor's appointments. Item 3A, the Citizen Advisory Review Committee to reappoint Justin Hartman to a 3-year term. To accept the resignation of Byron Winter. And then for B, the Cemetery Board, 3-year term to reappoint Roger Glowitz and also to reappoint Greg Zapka. I believe we should do these by board. So the first one would be 3A, which would be the Citizen Advisory Review Committee. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the vote.
Voting in favor, Cans. Schmidt. Pike. Fritz. Camper. Beck. Motion carries.
Item B, this is the Cemetery Board to reappoint Roger Glowitz and Greg Zapka. Is there a motion?
Move. Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor of the motion, Beck. Camper. Fritz. Pike. Schmidt. Cans. Motion carries.
Okay. Item 4, this is a public hearing for 7 p.m. This is consideration of TIF application of Two Creeks Holding. Andrew Willis, who is the city's TIF attorney, is here to present items A through F. Welcome.
Thanks, Mayor Eichmeyer, council members. Project before you today is Two Creeks Holdings LLC. Essentially, we're looking at developing a new warehouse retail facility with a little bit of office space for St. PJ Supply Inc. This project was brought before the CRA and approved May 27th, and then for the Planning Commission, which recommended approval of the plan amendment, that was at the June 8th meeting. The application came in. Essentially, the redeveloper will be Two Creeks Holding. They secured it's an affiliated party, the St. PJ Supply, so they have the long-range tenant in place. That will be the single tenant of this building. It's a wholesale paint body shop supply provider. The purpose of this project is essentially to allow St. PJ Supply to expand from its current location of 1,800 square feet to about 4,675 square feet. So it's a pretty significant increase, and it sounds as if they've needed this for a while. Michael is here, so after I get on this, he'll be able to answer any more specific questions about the business. But so it's going to be located on a vacant parcel right along Highway 34, real close to where the current location is. But developing this vacant lot in the redevelopment area it came about because of the sort of significant costs associated with this lot. The intent, if approved, is to have construction done by this December. It's a steel Balin building, 20-foot sidewalls. It's about 4,675 square feet. 90% of that's warehouse, a little bit, and then they do a little bit of retail business there, and then just a small amount as office space. The site has no utilities and it needs to be kind of some site prep, some stabilization, and a retaining wall put in before it can really be a buildable lot. We use TIF for the land acquisition, utility improvements, site stabilization, retaining wall, and then also the goals for some public parking improvements in line with what the CRA has been doing to kind of increase the public parking throughout the town. There were some other, in the application, there's a few other eligible costs identified, but as we'll see, the uses have already exceeded the TIF request, and so we kind of stopped at those main ones. They looked at some energy efficiency enhancements and some other things as well, but when we get to the cost benefit analysis, you'll see there's plenty of eligible uses there in this project. The request is for $56,000, and again, as you see in our calculations, that's just about right. We're proposing this as $56,720. That's kind of the highlight of the application. Most of the rest of this is going to go into the next two pieces, but if you look at the cost benefit analysis, the project, the base value of this lot is $13,871. Projected valuation after the completion of this building, $336,600. Giving us an incremental value of $322,729. Annual incremental tax on that is $5,600. That amount over the 15-year TIF period at a 5.5% interest rate, which is I believe what they're looking at with the lender right now, is going to yield right at $56,720. Again, this is looking at about $55,000 in eligible costs. Those would be, again, as I said, site acquisition, utility improvements. There's no utilities to the property right now. The stabilization retaining wall that's necessary to build on that lot, and then the public parking improvements. In particular, I mean, obviously we need utilities no matter what, but there's also some safety enhancements with this building. It's going to be sprinkled because of there's a significant amount of paint and other supplies there, so they're going to sprinkle this whole building. Another kind of, as we look at the impacts and the cost benefit analysis, there's a positive impact on, obviously, as I said, this business that's currently in the redevelopment area and needs to expand significantly. The current site will also be renovated. They're going to turn that into some classroom space. Part of their business is they do a lot of education with their customers, and this will add another benefit of allowing those customer trainings that occur in the city of Seward rather than other places. Ideally, hopefully you'll see some revenue in hotels, restaurants, etc. as well. It's just sort of an ancillary benefit, kind of what these tax increment financing projects are supposed to do, kind of keep building on themselves and spurring more development. There's been a relatively significant or steady increase in employment. We're anticipating an immediate creation of 2 to 3 full-time jobs, and then some future jobs expansion as well, but mainly this allows them to continue their expansion and warehousing the products that they hold and serve to their customers. It's going to include some landscaping along the Highway 34 corridor, so that'll increase the aesthetics of that part of the redevelopment area. And again, as I mentioned, there's a public parking aspect of this that has been kind of the continuing goal of the CRA. If we look at the Exhibit B of the cost benefit analysis, which is the TIF sources and uses, again, I went through the sources there. The incremental value is going to be about $322,729, $5,600 in tax increment. Based on that 5.5% interest, it's $56,720. TIF loan, less than 3% CRA fee, yields them about $55,000 for these uses. Down in the TIF uses, we've identified the site acquisition, $30,000, the preparation, retaining wall for the land, almost $12,000, utility improvements and construction to get the site ready, $8,300, and then public parking improvements, $35,000. I said that's $85,000 already, so we've already significantly exceeded the TIF amount, and obviously the redeveloper just is paying the rest of that. The redevelopment plan, the amendment to the redevelopment plan, again, identifies this project. A lot of this is kind of repeating what I just said, the cost-benefit analysis, because we're incorporating the cost-benefit analysis into this, but we identify the project as that 4,675 square foot facility, and identify kind of the needs here. The vacant site needs this kind of significant site preparation prior to being able to be developed, primarily that stabilization for the preparation, the construction of the retaining wall, and the extension of the utilities. As I mentioned, the redeveloper here will be Two Creeks Holdings LLC, which is an affiliate of St. PJ Supply. The business will be St. PJ Supply. If we look at the statutory elements that we always have to go through on Exhibit B of the plan amendment, there's not a lot to talk about with this project. There's no public acquisition or disposal of property. It's a third-party, private owned, so the CRA isn't involved in the land acquisition or disposal. It's a commercial project, so there's no population density issues we needed to address. Land coverage meets all the requirements. It's a 4,675 square foot building. The lot is almost 26,000 square feet. Be about a 7,000 square foot parking lot in addition to the building. It's on Highway 34. Didn't no anticipated traffic impacts, street grade, street layout issues. I mentioned the next one we'll look at is parking. No required parking, but they'll be including the about 7,000 square feet of parking subject to a public parking license. Similar to when we get to the redevelopment agreement, it'll be similar terms that we've seen on other projects. No anticipated zoning, building code, or ordinance issues, obviously based on what we know. It's located in, that's urban corridor zoning district, in the building that will be constructed. It will be classified as business support services building. It's a permitted use in that zoning district, so don't anticipate any issues there from the plan amendment perspective. Moving on to the redevelopment agreement, I'll go through the highlights that are sort of specific to this project. Page 2, in the definitions, the effective date is going to be January 1 of 2016, meaning 2016 next year will be the first year that taxes are divided for this project. Construction is anticipated to be completed this December. The minimum project valuation, as I said, is $336,000. As I mentioned, the redevelopers Two Creeks Holdings LLC. In Section 3, in Article 3, we identify the TIF amount, the TIF indebtedness amount of $56,720. First year of splitting the taxes is 2016, and the base year would be this year, 2015. That's the musical portion of this. Section 4. Section 4.05 is where we identify that we'll be putting the public parking license in place. Otherwise, the terms are similar to what we've seen before. If the assessed value falls short, the redeveloper is on the hook for that. The CRA and the city have no obligations on that TIF indebtedness other than the amount of incremental taxes. Exhibit A defines the project that we've talked about. Exhibit B kind of goes through the TIF indebtedness calculation. Exhibit C, again, is the same TIF sources and uses that was in the cost-benefit analysis. And Exhibit E is the parking license, and this is the similar terms that we've used in other projects before, so there's no the same permitted hours and everything there, same responsibilities. There's kind of the forum that's been established for that. And that is kind of the project in a nutshell. I'd be glad to take any questions about this portion of it, or if you have any more specific business questions, I'd probably
Are there any,
defer to Mike Lewis.
yeah, are there any questions at this time for,
Andrew, you're gonna hear my squeaky wheel over here all the time when it comes to public parking, and exactly, you know, that it truly provides a benefit when we're doing public parking, and putting this stuff on TIF, because this is taxpayer dollars that we're playing with. I don't have a problem with this, but it's just something I guess I want to, I mean, because of this TIF amount, what's available, and what the actual costs are, it fits within my parameters, I guess, but I guess it's something we have to keep in mind when we're adding public parking improvements, that there's truly gonna be a public use of it, and we're not setting something up that nobody would ever use as public parking.
I anticipated that comment. And yeah, I think that's always the CRA kind of has this goal of increasing the public parking throughout the city, and I don't have a further answer other than, yeah, kind of, you know, looking at the parameters we're
You're well under.
yeah.
any other questions for Andrew? This is a public hearing, so I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing portion of this. If anyone from the public would like to comment on this item number 4, you're sure welcome to at this time. You are welcome to approach the podium, one at a time. Not seeing anyone, then I'll go ahead and close. Yes,
Does the council have any questions from Two Creeks Holdings? I'd be glad to answer anything if anybody has.
you wanna come up and just stand at the podium, then I can ask if, but I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing portion of this at this time, and then open it back up to the council if there are any additional questions. You might get off the hook here.
I might get off the hook.
Yeah, I don't see any questions.
No questions?
So, did anything else you wanted to add about the project?
I think so. Andrew did a really good job
Okay.
presenting it. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Perfect.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. So unless there's any other questions from the council on item 4E and 4F, we have 2 resolutions, and I would ask for someone to introduce the first resolution under 4E.
I'll introduce it.
Okay. The resolution has been introduced and is designated as resolution number 2015-15. Would anyone like to move that this resolution be passed and adopted?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Wayne Thurman, motion Beck, Hampton, Fritz, Pikes, Schmidt, Hughes, motion carried.
Thank you. Again, I would ask if someone would like to introduce resolution under 4F.
I'll introduce a resolution.
Okay. The resolution has been introduced and is designated as resolution number 2015-16. Would anyone like to move that this resolution be passed and adopted?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Wayne Thurman, motion Beck, Hampton, Fritz, Pikes, Schmidt, Hughes, motion carried.
Thank you. All right, next item number 5, this is also a public hearing for 7 p.m. preliminary and final plat for C&G First Edition final plat.
You're on your A game today.
And item 5A is consideration of an ordinance approving the final plat for C&G First Edition. And John Hughes has a handout for you to take a look at.
This time I'd like to ask Mr. Gergen, who's in charge of the plat for C&G, to come up if you have any questions for him.
Are there any questions from the council at this time on the plat? Is there anything else you'd like to add at this time about the plat?
Right now, we're going through the construction process a little bit. We have the sanitary sewer main has been constructed. Where the rain never lets up, we can get some concrete driveways paved. The church is being renovated. The bank is under construction, and right now we're designing a dental and chiropractic clinic as part of this development. I'm happy to answer any further questions.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions from the council? Okay, this is also a public hearing, so at this time I'll open this up to the public. If anyone from the public would like to comment on item 5A, you are welcome to approach the podium and address the council.
James Hartman is my name. I live right across the street from this project. I can't understand, I know it's been tough going with all the rain, but why can't they keep the lot at least cleaned up so it doesn't look like it's a wild zoo over there? I mean, it's nothing but weeds and junk and stumps and all kinds of others. The piles of dirt 10 miles high. Seems like they could do a lot better job of even talking with the neighbors about what's going on.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the public at this time? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing portion on this. Does the council have any additional questions or comments on this item? Otherwise, I would ask for someone to introduce the ordinance unless John has anything else to add. Okay,
I'll introduce the ordinance.
okay. The ordinance has been introduced. An ordinance to approve the plat entitled C&G First Edition, a replat of Lot 4, C&G Addition to the City of Seward, Seward County, Nebraska, as hereinafter set forth, located east of 4th Street, south of C&G Addition, north of Ash Street, west of 3rd Street, to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form, to provide for a time when this ordinance shall take effect. The title has been read and is designated as ordinance number 2015-10. And the title is hereby approved. I need a motion to dispense with the statutory rule.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Yes.
Just a question, since this is a final plat, have we, and we may have prior to this, seen like a hydrology study in light of all the rain and stuff that we've been having and the issues we've been dealing with around town? Have we ever had has there been a hydrology study of this area?
They did not submit a hydrology study for it, but we kind of calculated out the runoff and the addition of the storm sewer. Basically, it just all goes down.
It all goes downhill.
All goes downhill.
That's a kind of a study. Well, I'm just curious, I'm a little hesitant to approve a final plat that may come back to bite us in the future when, because of all the addition of these improvements, and I know it's not changing that much from what the school was, but don't we normally require a hydrology study in
In some
a
instances, we
development?
do. In this particular case, by the time we figured out what the school had done for a playground yard and all the concrete and all the building rooftops, the replacing rooftops were far less than what we had.
I don't not believe you, John,
Yeah.
but I'm just, from the city standpoint,
We can certainly get
it'd
that
be
done.
nice if we had something documented that could state that, you know,
We can certainly do it.
if there's future issues with any of these, especially, you know, these properties along the south, the very south part, who are gonna be at the very end of it. You know,
They're gonna have walkout basements, yeah.
right. I don't know, I'd like to see something a little more documented from our side of it, especially with the hydrology part of it, before we approve the final plat. That's my only comment.
Yes, Ellen?
I just want to agree with what Sid said completely. Maybe we should have a more formal policy or more formal protocol so that every project has something that we can go back to look at, so we don't run into the Star Street situation where nobody's to blame and there was no oversight.
Sure. Anyone else? The motion is to dispense the statutory rule, was the last motion, and it was seconded. Okay. Let me find my place here. So unless there's any further discussion at this time, I'd ask you to please register your votes. Please go to votes.
Voting in favor, Beck, Camper, Pike, Schmidt, Hands, opposed, Fritz.
Kelly, we have a problem here.
That was
6 votes in order to do that, and we don't,
Good job, Steve.
so.
Those who were in agreement.
And
they also
I,
voted no, 'cause then they had to
this is
come back for
number
another
one of those,
and then we can do-
if not, then we don't,
So,
Okay.
because we're used to this.
what's right. Okay. So it passes.
We have to have another meeting, it's what it means.
Okay,
That's probably appropriate anyway.
Yes.
Another
yeah, that's
reading of
fine.
this.
So I just wanna make sure we were on the same page. Okay, so just to clarify, to suspend the statutory rule of 3 readings, you have to have 6 council members vote for it. And so we did not, and so that is, at this point then, even if this were to pass, it would have to be done, or we'd actually have to do 2 more readings of this item. Well, I guess you could suspend the next time, but just explain what's going on. So there's no reason to go on to the next, I mean, if we haven't, if the statutory rule is in effect, if
You
you-
don't need to vote on it.
correct,
In past practices, when we didn't dispense with the 3 reading rule, we just read it once,
right,
and we'll read it again at the next meeting, and if we
Right.
want to suspend at the next meeting, we can, and then,
but there's no reason in the next vote, because we have to do at least 1 more reading.
right.
Okay. Alright, so then, that concludes item number 5. Okay.
Good job, Dean.
Item number 6, this is consideration of a plan for stormwater runoff and sanitary sewer improvements for St. John's new daycare center to be located at Hillcrest Drive and Columbia Avenue. John Hughes?
Yeah,
Item A here is consideration of financial participation in the relocation of sanitary sewer line improvements.
In the relocation of the sanitary sewer line, as you can see up there on the screen, there we go. We have an 8-inch clay line that goes underneath one of the residences, there would be Pastor Coddington's house. It would be, in my opinion, this would be a good time to terminate that. Oh, sorry. New toy. Would be to terminate this line at this time so that we don't have a line running underneath this guy's house and swimming pool. As far as the participation on the 8-inch clay line, I believe that merits having that line televised and seeing what kind of condition that is in. Mainly because after the building is built, if we have a failure on that line, it's gonna be a lot harder to fix than at this particular time. That line was put in 1960, it's about 53 years old. Reason to believe it is root bound in several areas up in here. Although the trees have been taken out, I don't know if the roots have been relieved from that area. So that would be something to consider, but only after we've had the lines televised. And we'll be getting rid of this one right here, at this point right there. So that would be my recommendations on the sanitary sewer.
Is your recommendation from Tim Richdick as well?
Tim was, again, he wanted to see if this line was viable. He didn't seem to see that there was any value in removing this. And he didn't think there was any value in adding into the participation of this one as well. But I think if we get rid of the 8-inch clay line there, that automatically puts us in to participating with this piece right here.
Okay.
So one kind of piggybacks to the other.
Right, I guess I was thinking from Tim's comment and in his report that he presented was that he didn't see this as relocating these lines as a benefit to the city, but he was open to the 8-inch line because as a possibility if it were actually, if it somehow the integrity was an issue. Is that not right?
That would be it.
Okay. Because, I mean, we obviously don't have this budgeted for this year, and none of this is in the
It's not
CIP.
even the CIP or the capital plans, and quite
Okay.
frankly, you know, somebody mentioned the last time that we'll see if we could find some monies that would be
Right.
available. You know, we kinda keep a tight lid on our CIPs, and unless we don't do a project and there happens to be money left over for another project, we just don't have that kind of money.
'Cause I think part of the concern was that if you start relocating lines on private property that don't have a clear benefit to the city, that could lead to a number of other requests that might be similar.
Yep.
But it was separate from that retention issue that was suggested as a possibility. I mean, that could still be a part of the CIP, couldn't it,
Yes.
as we move into the budget process?
Yes.
And I assume that was something that we
Yeah,
would
I was
look
just-
at.
At this point, I was just talking
Yeah,
about the sanitary
okay.
lines, and the only reason I would be considering this is again, albeit it's, I mean, it's a city line underneath a private residence. And, it would be just a good time to clean that item up.
Are there any questions or comments from the council? Yes, Sid?
John, up there kind of by the natural gas thing,
Mhm.
yeah, where you said that would terminate, well, by E11-27.
Right,
So if you would eliminate the old railroad right away,
mhm.
8-inch clay, where would that dump into the current 8-inch that comes there?
This 8-inch sanitary line goes
Yeah.
all the way down here and comes down here, and then it goes into the sewer system further to the south.
But if you terminated that, where would it go?
This right here,
Yeah, that section that you're talking about.
this one is gonna be terminated, and they're moving it down along here.
So the developer is already doing that
Yes.
and paying for that?
Yes.
Okay.
That was part of the request last time, was
Right, right.
asking for cost sharing. For
So-
portions of it, but also
Yeah.
the city paying for other portions of this.
Because this goes down here, and if we decided that this needed to be replaced, it would be a good time to replace this as well and make that connection of where they're bringing their sanitary sewer, which would be right in here.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Chris?
I just think we're trying to put the cart before the horse. I mean, last time we met, we talked about scoping those pipes and see what they look like, and we still don't know that answer.
Right.
So, you know, depending on the condition of those clay pipes, I might have a different opinion than what I have right now, so.
Is there a timetable on what it would take to scope those, or unless they've already done it on the
I
development
think,
side?
you know, by the next meeting, we could have this looked at, and we could have a better.
Okay.
I'm gonna move, we table this item until the line gets scoped.
Second.
We have a motion to table item 6, and are you tabling 6A and 6B, or?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion to table item 6A and 6B. Is, in a second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Well, you heard the motion back, Mr. Fritz, by Smith and Mr.
Item number 7, consideration of a developer's agreement with Blue Stem Solutions on renewable energy options, and Adam Herrick? Am I pronouncing that right?
You're good.
Close enough?
Thank you, Josh. Good evening,
Welcome.
everybody. Brief reminder, my name's Adam Herrick. I'm with Blue Stem out of Omaha. I was here 2 months ago talking about the contractual options for the city of Seward regarding renewable energy. And since then, we have worked with Kelly on our standard developers agreement. What this agreement says is Blue Stem, if executed, will go to work, and we will come back to the city council with a menu of different projects and prices and options. At that point is where the long-term decision for the city would be made. This is an agreement to show that you guys are interested as a community to investigate your options, and it gives us a little more security to start spending some money. So,
And just to clarify, and Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is, approving this agreement, there is more or less a glorified handshake, as far as it's not committing the city to spend any money, it's not committing the city to do the project. It's just basically, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they wanted to gauge if there's interest or not in pursuing this, because there is going to be some cost accrued to moving forward. And so if there's absolutely no interest, in doing this. I think they would wanna know and they can move on and
Yep.
consider options. If there is an interest, even if it's not, a commitment, which is not what this is, but, they would wanna know that so they can move forward with it. So are there any questions about, this agreement? Yes, Sid? Then-
Kelly? Have you read this
Yes.
feedback?
Yes,
You okay with it?
that's accurate, yes, correct.
Was there any
Trying to
change?
find the news.
Did you make a couple changes though?
The only thing is, and Adam, maybe you can talk about, what we talked about was the cost cap and the consequence of when we might potentially pay a cost cap.
Yep, there's one instance in the agreement where it would cost the city of Seward money. If we get halfway through the term, and for some reason you would say, we don't wanna work with you anymore, there's a cost sharing up to $10,000 at that point. Even if you wanted to do that at that point, you could just wait out the agreement. But, like I said, if we get halfway through our studies and we spend some money on it, and you guys just say, go away, there is an instance in there that, you'd have to pay nothing above $10,000. So you would have an option just to wait out the agreement.
That's the only cost exposure to the city that I saw in this.
And we've never had that happen, and I don't see why it would. I compare this maybe to putting an option on a piece of ground. So you want a piece of ground and I have a good idea for it, but I need to do some public things to do it. So I retain an option, I do my work, and I come back, but it's still secure, I can purchase that.
Chris?
Adam, can you just give us a quick overview again? I know we talked wind and we talked solar.
Yep.
I mean, when you guys dig into this, what is your process? What are you gonna look at?
Yep, good point. And what I'll do is I'll kind of give you an idea of the schedule of what would happen after tonight. Per your contract with your wholesale provider, which is MPPD, you can purchase 2 megawatts of renewable energy in your community. That can be wind, solar, biogas, anything of that nature. What we would do immediately is we would look at the loads of the city, your load patterns, how much electricity you use at your substations. That would give us a good idea of the different sizes of projects we could do, because we don't want to offer you more energy than you're ever using. So that would be the first thing. So then we'll know the size. Then we'll look at the resources in the area, that be it the wind and the sun. We are working on some biogas projects. I don't probably see that as a fit here. But we'd study the resource of the area, and we look for a good area in or around town that would be acceptable to the city council. So I'll be coming back and I'll show you some options. We know the size, that's just a technical, answer. Here are the technologies that we think make the most sense for the city of Seward, and here's the areas of town where we think we need to be. That's we want that to be a community, engaged process. So we narrow it down. Then we go through some environmental assessments for the area. Usually they're not very big on projects like this, but we do need to do them. We would look at any zoning requirements we would need to do, and we would go out for bid on some of the projects. At that point, we'll come back to you with prices for the projects and contracts. And that's when you make the long-term decision. That's where you say, this is the price, this is the project, this is the location, and now we're going to move forward. But there's a lot of work that goes into it up to that point.
Any other questions? Oh, Ellen?
We're taking ourselves off the table for any other developer for 2 years with this, and that's fine. How far into that 2-year period do you anticipate coming back to us with proposals?
I think we would be there anywhere from 9 months to a year. The reason we make it 2 is because this industry, like every other industry in the energy world, there's a lot of tax credit stuff going on. So a lot of times what we'll do is, I'll be able to come back and offer you a price, but I'll need to say, all right, we gotta wait till December, till, they kick the can down the Congress and extend the tax credits. So it usually takes us anywhere from 9 months to a year to get all this done. Contracts, tax credits, and some of those things can extend it a little longer. There'd be no scenario where it ever go past 2 years. So I know it seems kind of like a long time, but in the development world, it takes us that much time to get through our stuff. Even the resource assessment studies, we need to study the solar and the wind of the area for a few months to get a feel of the patterns, because it changes from winter to summer.
Within that time period, within that 1 year when you would present the project, would you provide us with any sort of updates as to even where you're looking, what you're looking?
Most definitely. This is a community project. I would say we're not in the business of pissing people off. I mean, we're not going to. So we're gonna show you the locations, the options we're looking at, and we're gonna have input, you know, at that point. So, yes, we will.
At a time period prior to
Most
presenting
definitely.
a formal proposal.
The time, when you see the locations and there's probably 3 to 6 months between when you see the locations and when you see the price. You know, we would like to get it out in the paper, you know, we want the community to know about it.
Any other questions? Does someone care to make a motion?
No. Accept the agreement.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the agreement with Bluestem Energy Solutions.
Second.
We have a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, to register your votes. Please display the votes.
Motion by Council President Pike, Schmidt, Hansel.
Alright, thank you.
We look forward to working with you. I'll be back.
Thank you. Item number 8, consideration of amended lease agreement with Alltel Communication of Nebraska Incorporated, doing business as Verizon Wireless for placement of equipment on the city's water tower. John Hughes?
I believe everybody had a chance to review the project, but there really is no, outside of the fence line of the water tower there's nothing that's going on that's gonna be intrusive to the neighborhood. They're putting in a 20 by 40 building on the south side of the water tower. And again, it will be within the confines of our fenced-in area. Kelly has reviewed the terms of the contract.
Yeah, you actually approved this lease once, but Tim Richton came back and had just a couple changes to make to it, so I wanted to make sure that you guys approve those changes.
Housekeeping.
Any questions or comments? Otherwise, I entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion to approve the amended lease agreement with Alltel Communications of Nebraska Incorporated, which was seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
20 in favor of the motion by Council President Pike, Schmidt, Hansel, motion carries.
Okay. Item number 9, consideration of a lease agreement with Hamilton Equipment for excavator. John Hughes?
Yeah, this was a CIP item for the cemetery originally. The electric department and the cemetery were going to go in halves on this piece of equipment. As it turned out, the piece of equipment that was necessary for digging the graves in the cemetery was not what the electric department wanted. However, we did have enough money left over on the lease program. There was $10,500 in the CIP. The lease comes out to $10,101, and it seemed like the better way to go is to lease this over a 5-year period, 3-year period, I believe. And so that's what the lease is about.
Are there any questions or comments from the council? Otherwise, I would ask someone to introduce the resolution.
I'll introduce the resolution.
All right. The resolution has been introduced and is designated as resolution number 2015-17. Would anyone like to move that this resolution be passed and adopted?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
20 in favor of the motion by Council President Pike, Schmidt, Hansel, motion carries.
Item number 10, consideration of digester, storage tank, emergency repairs. John, did you want to take that for Tim?
Well, I'd like to, except for I don't know a thing about it.
Okay.
I know if it's an emergency item that Tim can't do, then he, I thought Randy Joyner would be here to do this.
Okay. Well, I guess we could look at the packet if you need to. If you have any questions at this time, I believe there's information within the packet that explains the situation and the need to replace the equipment. Is there any questions from the council at this time? And if you'd like, I can read you the explanation real quick. This was from Tim regarding the digester storage tank emergency repairs. The sludge storage tank at the wastewater treatment plant needs emergency repairs. The interior top seal has failed due to corrosion from H2S gas and methane gas. Damage to the exterior block from H2S and methane gas leaking into the building attached has caused a hazardous and explosive building interior condition. The tank is out of service and ready for repairs. Funds from the CIP sludge pump project would be used for the repairs. 2 out of 4 contractors submitted a bid for the repairs that are available, requesting funds then to proceed with the repairs. So that's a summary of why Tim feels that this needs to be repaired as an emergency item. Said you guys with that?
Just not really question and a comment, and I think, Josh, the last big expenditure may have occurred before you were here. John, you can remember it if I can, but the last time the wastewater treatment plant needed, and this isn't a significant amount of money, but the last time they came to us with all these repairs that need to be made, that all of a sudden, like, oh my gosh, the thing fell apart yesterday. And the council's big question was, hello, you know, why is it all of a sudden now? You didn't see this till yesterday? And so council members toured the facility and we were shown all the degradation back then. Was that before?
That was in
Josh's?
David Lathrop's time.
That was in, yeah, but it was back when Glowitz and Berlowitz were here.
Yes.
Yeah. And so back then, the council had questions like, okay, if these things were degrading so bad, why wasn't it put in the budget? Why didn't we see it before now? Why all of a sudden is it an emergency we have to replace? And it was a lot of money back then. We had to do it because it's a sewer plant. And so my bigger question is, why once again, all of a sudden someone just shined a flashlight up and said, oh my gosh, the top of this building is falling apart, when you're in it every day, or you can look at it every day. And then the smaller question is, well, if they're not using it now, how essential is it, and how long can it not be working? I guess I would like to fix the bigger issue here of what the wastewater treatment plant is, of things apparently going undetected until all of a sudden they have to be fixed.
Well, and I can't speak for,
And that's probably not a question for you, but
but as an observation, I think we've got a pretty good guy that's taking the bull by the horns at the wastewater treatment plant. At that particular time, things fell so out of repair that it was astronomical. We pretty much did a whole redevelopment of the whole system. I'm not sure if this was part of that, I couldn't tell you, but this is just something that came up within the last week or two. Tim has been working on diligently, and he's staying ahead of the game. We've got a wastewater treatment supervisor that actually is a hands-on guy, and he's been doing a lot of modifications down there. He's been saving the city a lot of money by using his department versus hiring stuff out as was the practice at that time. The only thing I can comment on is I believe him if he says it's an emergency, it's an emergency. I don't believe if he'd have known about it ahead of time that he wouldn't have applied for funds in the CIP, because him and I worked on the last CIP together and we went through all these items. So it was an unforeseen emergency.
Well, it sounds like from his summary that the methane buildup is an issue.
Right,
And
it is a dangerous
And you have a
situation.
potentially explosive building. I don't know to what extent what that means, but I think that's where the emergency nature is trying to address that issue as soon as possible.
And the digester really, even though it's offline at the moment, is kind of a critical
Yeah.
component of the wastewater treatment systems.
Chris, did you have a comment?
I mean, this stuff comes up all the time when we get into the exact conversation that Sid started, and I mean, these are decisions that were made before my time, but this one seems to be a sore spot with a lot of people. I mean, obviously, I'm just guessing here, because I haven't been over there, I've never toured it, that it's possible that this is not in use now, so they actually could look at it, and that's when they determine that, I mean, I have to believe there's some sort of inspections that go on with this or something, because I mean, this is the second time since I've been on council that a big item comes in, emergency, we gotta fix it, we gotta fix it. You know, you probably can't answer it, but I'd like to know, you know, what's the inspection rotation? How are these things used? Do they only get inspected like, you know, I'm assuming a lot that this thing's offline right now, and they had a chance to look at it and, oh, look what's happened, we need to take care of this. You know, how does this work, and how do we better budget for these things and know that they're there so that you're not bringing emergency items, and that we can actually have it planned in the budget that, hey, this
I
is,
think what happened was they actually drained the sludge and they were replacing the sludge pumps as part of the maintenance item. And at that time, they found out that they did have the leak in the membrane, that methane was exposed into the building because they have monitors and
Ellen?
If this is such an emergency, the proposal was dated May 1st. So, okay, so it's really been going on for some months?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Tim doesn't share a lot of things with me, but he's a good guy.
Any other questions or comments?
I think we need to do it, but I guess, it'd be nice from my standpoint, just so I have an understanding of it. And I'm not laying blame anywhere, I just wanna understand it. So it'd be nice if Tim or somebody from over there, whoever's our expert on this digester, gives a little rundown. I mean, I don't have to do it at a council meeting, I don't care if they call me or something unless other people are interested. I'd just like to know the process, how this thing works, so that these things don't rear their head, and, because I will get a comment from somebody on the street related to this, because they were against it in the first place.
Well, my guess is that if this were to be approved tonight, that Tim could come, whether it be at the next council meeting or shortly after that, could present an update as to these repairs, and then also give you an overview and answer those questions. That way everyone has the same information. Would that be acceptable? Any other questions or comments at this time? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion.
I move approval of the request for going ahead with the repairs.
Second.
Okay. Which one? This is the Mongan? Okay. We're gonna go with I assume the lesser of the bids, and that would be the third, so just clarify, the motion is to award the bid of $38,551 to Mongan Painting Company Incorporated out of Cherokee, Iowa.
Yes,
And that's the
that's
motion.
the motion.
Is that this motion that was seconded? Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor of the motion, Beck, Camper, Fritz, Pike, Schmidt, and motion carried.
Thank you. Item 11, this is consideration of request to upgrade crosswalk signage and relocation of crosswalk on North Columbia Avenue. Mel's here, and I believe this is the hospital's request as part of their project to expand their hospital and try to redirect foot traffic.
Their traffic for their
Okay.
employees, pedestrians, and visitors from that west parking lot. The proposal is, the city street department, myself, will take care of the signage, the proper signage for the advanced pedestrian walking. There'll be a head sign right below that, and then at the crossing, there'll be another pedestrian crossing sign and indicating with an arrow. All those signs will be the highest grade signage. It's a diamond grade, more reflectability for car lights and everything. You'll see that a lot easier. It's the highest grade.
Are you painting the crosswalk as well?
We'll paint the crosswalk. We'll do that ourselves. We're out tonight painting the downtown, get ready for the 4th. We'll provide that painting and ability to do that. And I talked with Larry Ruther. He'll put up a new street light pole on the east side on the Seward Health Hospital side, a little bit taller, a 6-foot arm on it with new LED lighting he's been putting up around town. That will light that whole area probably a half block, and be really visible for, vehicles to see the pedestrians.
Can you clarify, oftentimes we have for the crosswalk, we have the image of a person or people walking. Will this specifically say yield to pedestrians, do you know?
This one won't, it's just the signage itself has the figure of the pedestrian,
Okay.
and then that arrow pointing at that crosswalk area.
Okay.
And then farther back is the advance,
Okay,
telling the advance that there's one ahead, and that signage will be, say, ahead.
okay.
For the wordage ahead, or below the same signage with that person in the district.
Are there any questions for Mel on this?
And what the Memorial Healthcare Center is gonna do, they're gonna build the handicap ADA ramping on both sides of Columbia, do the fencing around there. And we asked them to widen out that area for ADA accessible in case there is a handicapped person who needs to cross that crosswalk. It's wide enough for them as well as oncoming traffic. It'll be wider, and we'll paint that. I'll put more bars in it so it's more visible, so people, cars can see that. The other crosswalk that's there now, we're gonna get rid of. We either grind it off or sandblast it off, and it'll just totally eliminate that one. And so, and then that middle one will be the usage.
Sid, you have a question?
I've been in cities where they have, the crosswalk sign, but it's got these LED lights around the perimeter, and the pedestrian can come up and push a button, and it doesn't activate a stoplight, but what it does is it activates these flashing LEDs, which makes those crosswalk signs a lot more visible. And I'm wondering, especially since there's gonna be handicapped people going across, if we could look into what the additional cost of that would be to install those LED flashing ones, because there's a lot of people that cross there, there's no doubt about it. I think that would be a safer enhancement than just what you're proposing. So, my comment.
Any other questions or comments? I entertain a motion at this point. If someone would like to make a motion. I think we need some direction on, I think the hospital would like to have some idea of what direction the city would like to go as far as addressing this crosswalk issue.
Didn't the hospital say that they would pay for the signage and everything?
I don't recall, do you
They
remember?
they indicated they were gonna have some financial
They pay
participation.
for everything, what I understood.
Okay, and that's something that we can obviously look to get
Right.
reimbursed for at that point.
I mean, I put up signage, we put signage around town anywhere for stop signs, yields, or whatever. And this could be provided for the city as well. But they did have that option. They could probably pay for some of it, right?
Okay. Sid?
Well, I would make a motion that would include investigating the cost of installing the illuminated crosswalk signs with the buttons, so we can see how much that would cost, and then see if the hospital would help pay for that.
I know that the diamond grade is top of the line. I mean, that's really reflective. I mean, you really can see that.
Yeah,
That's
at night
that's that
especially,
yellow green.
but in the middle of the day, when some college kid is going from Highway 34 to Concordia, and he doesn't have his headlights on, a flashing LED light would be really nice.
There'll be that new street lighting there that'll just light it up like it's daytime.
At night it would, but in the middle of the day, what I'm saying is in the middle of the day, when some college kid is wanting to get to campus to meet his girlfriend, an LED flashing light on the crosswalk would really be very safe. And my motion would include investigating what that would cost before we just approve what you're proposing.
Okay, we have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, could you register your votes? Please display the votes.
Voting in favor of the motion, Beck, Baker, Fritz, Frank, Schmidt, Hughes, motion carried.
Thanks, Mo.
Thanks.
John, do you want to give an update on capital projects?
Yes. start out with my regular capital project. Under administration, they're still working with the vendor on the code codification process. We're also going through the budget process. CIP project, Great Plains is continuing to build out their process. Grant information has been submitted for the Civic Center ADA project. We have sold lot 3, or at least it's in the process of being sold. This is one of the cemetery lots. And then we had a rail site meeting today on the trail. We did get tentative approval for both of the rail crossings from Burlington Northern. The one significant change is instead of the crossing down at the fairgrounds being on the north side of Fairgrounds Road at the intersection of Lincoln, because there's a bunch of track shifting stuff there, they gave us the option of replacing that track shifting at $250,000 or moving it to the south side of the street. After looking at the south side of the street, we kind of figured it was the best way to go, considering that we had more of a nod and shake of the head from Burlington that this would be an acceptable method of construction. Building Department CIPs is underway. The blight area amendment for the rail campus is underway. I've got a draft version of that, and I hope to have it back to them, and we should be ready for next month's planning commission meeting, as well as the council approval. And then we're doing comprehensive plan updates. We'll be probably starting soon. We're gonna have a new city administrator. Street department, Melvin working with assisting on Cedar Street. Jackson Street is being paved and is over. We did have a meeting with the NDOR on the status of the Carroll Cay wetlands mitigation. And up here on the screen, I gotta make sure I get the right button here. Originally, we had a sidewalk connecting all this area along this side, this portion of the road, and then we were gonna make a connection to the trail at this point here. The addition of that sidewalk on this portion right there, and they were willing to approve it with the stipulation of, because we were taking out more wetlands in this area than we had anticipated, that we were gonna have to do a 5-year mitigation plan. Basically, it was gonna cost about $30,000 to $40,000 to have a scientist come in every year and make sure that we had growth happening in this particular area here. During the meeting, it was brought up that we could take the sidewalk, and in actuality, make the sidewalk cut through here and make the connection to the trail at this point in time. And we'd be reducing the side slopes that would take out more area here and reduce it from a side slope of 4 foot to 2 foot side slopes, and we would reduce this mitigation area, which was set at 0.3, and we have it down to 0.12. If we can get it to 1/10, then we don't have to do any mitigation at all. But the amount of mitigation for 0.12 is less severe than if we went to here. And so I said I would present it to council on my report tonight and let you know what was going on, basically to save us money. I believe if there's any mitigation that has to go along with this right here, the savings that we would have in the construction right here would probably offset what the mitigation would be in this area right here. Gave you the information on the trail update, and Army Corps of Engineers. And I have to apologize, first of all, about a month and a half ago, we had a contractor that was hauling materials from the back of the armory, and we thought it was dirt, and they ended up dumping it down by close to the bridge. Actually, we thought we told them they'd put it in our dirt pile, but they didn't put it in our dirt pile, and it was pretty good that they didn't, but it was full of rubble and concrete. And at that point in time, it was too wet to move again, and somebody have seen fit to turn this in. Basically what they came in and said, if you remedy the situation, they would be happy. I kind of looked at this as being more of a maintenance type item. And I guess I should have brought it to council. Not, guess I should have brought it to council so you would know what was going on. Oh, this is over here is the acceptance of our mitigation plan for the remediation of the violation. And then lastly, I will give you copies of my plan for the remediation. We did get accepted that letter yesterday, approving the plan, and we will move ahead. Basically what we have to do is remove the dirt that was filled in. We do have a place to take the removed filled dirt. Apparently somewhere down the line, and it happened before Mel was the street superintendent, I believe it started with Calvin, they started filling in an oxbow. And they never had a core permit to fill in an oxbow. So aside from the dirt and the rubble that was available there, they wanted us to remove the dirt and the infill that we placed in that oxbow. We do have a place, if you look in my plan, there's a fellow that, next to where we just approved the TIF project for St. PJ's. There's an adjacent lot there that Mr. Josh Delkamp wanted to fill up. And he said he would be happy to take the dirt from there because we can't put it back into another floodway zone. We have to actually remove it and place it. And I do have the letter from him stating that he knows where the dirt's coming from. And I got a hold of Amy Gavin, and she said it was perfectly acceptable. And so we're on the way to remediating the problem with the core. Again, I probably should have made that in one of my other reports. I think I said something about providing information to the core, but certainly wasn't enough to make a good presentation to the council. But I kind of thought this was a maintenance type item because when I took over the street department, we had some deficiency on our dike permits, and we just fixed them. So, on another note, let's see, electric department, they're busy installing new LED street lights, replacing the three-phase primary and junction library, and water wastewater department, this is digester storage tank repairs that you know about, and well upgrades. And then yesterday we got a letter from the Department of Health stating that our corrosion plant is up and operating with no violations or deficiencies at this time. Park and Recs Department, swimming lessons should have started yesterday, but rain, I believe they got through today. We were busy getting quotes for the soccer field irrigation system and plan to install it in this CIP period. And then on Carroll Bay Park, at one point in time when it was designated to be a park and we got government monies for it, it was terrifically, the entrance to the park was, had some glass globes around the side and it was vandalized. So we're looking at putting up a steel arch with the designating as Carroll Bay Park to finish that project. Second part, I believe you all should have a printout of all the CIP stuff, starting with the administration. Most of the stuff was either done or in progress. The blank items obviously are things that haven't been started. Most of these items have been kind of, not that we're not going to do, but they've kind of been placed on hold simply because the Bonnie and myself and Jack kind of thought that when we got a new city administrator, he should be involved in this process. The two items that were canceled were the color copier, which quite frankly we still have another year. Don't laugh. Another year on the color copier. I know you wanted the color copy. We figured out a way to get your color copies. And then the SGR employee training, canceled that. If you move to the pool, Almost everything's been done there with the exception of the building non-skid surface, and we're still getting, information on that. Everything else has been replaced. Shower kits have, deck chair replacements are put on hold. If we wait till about the middle of summer, the deck chairs that would normally cost us $79, they mark them down to $20 a pop, so we can pick up 3 deck chairs for the price of 1 deck chair as soon as the initial period of summer is over. So they'll still be in the process and will be done this year. Building and planning, we are in the process of updating the comprehensive plan as well as the Unified Land Development Ordinance. Demolition of nuisance properties as they come, we've been taking them down. The redevelopment study for the blight area for the TIF is being incorporated as we speak. Like I said, I just picked up the draft yesterday, started doing it today, and hopefully we'll have this wrapped up, finished by the end of this week or next week. Building and grounds. Had some information provided to us on what we need for generator size, basically for City Hall and possibly the library, because those will be the 2 points of the command post in the period of disaster. And then we haven't done anything as far as procuring the generators or the municipal building or the library. Security system for City Hall, that was video cameras around there, that was canceled. Defibrillators are done, software upgrades are done, City Hall upgrades to the server room are in process. Cemetery, we got new fuel tanks out there, cemetery roof repairs are done, road repairs are done. You just approved the excavator lease, they replaced their Ford vehicles, and they got a new dump truck. More replacements have been done, and road prep on the new addition will be done as money comes in from the sales of the lots. More replacement is done. They're working on a design for the crematorium mausoleum, and then the Ford tractor is yet to be replaced. Civic Center, the big deal there is the ADA accessibility project, and as I stated before, it's in the grant process right now.
John,
And-
hey John, I was gonna say, I originally requested this because I got a question from a council member about where the status was for all these projects, so it's really just for informational purposes, if you wanna go through, and read through it, if you have questions as to why things are done or haven't been done, or when they'll be done, you're welcome to contact us, and we can get you that information, but otherwise, I don't wanna make you just read everything on here,
Good.
because
Basically, we're about 75% through our CIP process.
okay.
There have been no noticeable cancellations of any project that would directly affect the workings of the city.
Not that I don't like to hear your
No,
voice,
no.
but I appreciate that. Is there anything else in your report you wanted to add, or are you okay for now?
I'm okay.
Okay. Are there any questions, I guess, for John on that report? John was pretty lengthy. Yes,
Just
Ed?
one, John, you mentioned the blight area, was that, and I could have heard it wrong, for the rail campus area?
Mm-hmm.
Now, has that area been annexed yet? And I just don't remember, I didn't think it was annexed. Last map I saw, the city boundary didn't include the
We'll have
rail
to do the
campus.
annexation as well as the approval of the blight area.
But the annexation has to happen first, right? Because we can't designate any area blighted unless it's a part of the city.
Part of the city, exactly.
Good, don't wanna get the cart ahead of the horse.
Right.
No, the point of that at this juncture was with the proposed project, there's just gonna be a lot of things that have to happen, and so we're trying to get as many items completed up to the point where we can, so that if at some point, trigger gets pulled on a project, then we don't have to start all of these things from the very beginning, but we can just do the final steps that haven't been done yet, and that, the blight study was one of them. So the blight study is currently being done, understanding that it hasn't been annexed yet, but obviously, not only will the blight study have to come before the council for approval, so will any annexation that would occur. But the annexation, if it's done voluntarily versus involuntarily, also changes the timetable considerably through that process. So those are the things that would have to happen down the road. So, any other questions?
And I will add this on the blight study, there's more than just the rail campus involved. There's some land over by the Walmart that we feel is necessary to put into the blighted area for development.
questions? Otherwise, I entertain a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
The motion and a second, is there further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Did you hear the motion?
36,000.
Beck, Camper, Fritz, Pike, Schmidt, and Huston.
Item 13, future requests. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 14. The 4th of July is once again on the 4th of July this year in Seward. That's the only, without having Councilman Orlisky, I don't have anything else to add as far as the chamber is concerned, but as other items come up, we will try to let you know. And then the last, second last item is 15. This is consideration of city administrator appointment, and I'm pleased to announce the appointment of Bruce Smith. And Bruce, if you'd like to maybe come up and just say a few words, and then we'll move on to the appointment.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity that I'm going to be given, I hope, to be part of this community and to work with the mayor and the council. And I've been very impressed with the little bit of time I've been here. I've known Seward a little bit, been here several times, I've had friends here and things like that. And I'm really looking forward to the opportunity and the challenges, and it looks like things are going great, and we just need to keep it going, so. Thank you.
Any questions for Bruce? Seeing none, thank you. So this time, with the appointment, I entertain a motion.
Move to appoint our new city administrator.
Okay, we have a motion to appoint Bruce Smith as the city administrator. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing, yes, Sid?
I'm gonna pull a Tony Verana. And just say that I will eventually vote, well, it probably won't matter, but I would eventually vote to approve Bruce, but I'm gonna abstain tonight because only having found out about his appointment proposal on Friday, and only having been given 1 hour today to meet him, which I was tied up at work with previous appointments, just as a council member from my ward, I mean, what little I've checked out about Mr. Smith, I feel very good, but I'm basing upon other people's recommendations, and I have a lot of questions that I have not had a chance to talk to him about, even though other people have, and I believe them. So I'm gonna abstain. I'm not voting no, and I would probably eventually vote yes, but I'm abstaining, so.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Please register your votes. Please display the vote.
Voting in favor, Beck, Fritz, Pike, Schmidt, Hens, Camper, Fitz,
Thank you. Item B, this is the contract, which was in your packet for review, and Kelly is here to answer any questions that you may have about the agreement. If you read through it, one of the things that we did emphasize is is relying pretty heavily on what we currently use as our employee handbook and manual, policy manual. We try to keep the terms the same as the other employees. There are some exceptions that are in there, but that was one of the goals from the outset, was to try and keep it not just from the standpoint as is easier moving forward when the questions come up, if everyone has essentially the same terms to make sure that we're doing things we're supposed to be doing it, but also because I think it's important to have that similarity. So, are there any questions at this point for Kelly, I guess, regarding the contract? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the contract for Bruce Smith. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor of the motion, Beck, Camper, Fritz, Pike, Schmidt, Hens, motion carried.
You got here just in time. That was an important vote. And then related to this would be the oath. Yeah, just have them go through. Yeah, just go ahead, Tony, if you don't mind, thank you. This isn't like a 30-minute open, is it?
Okay. I, Bruce Smith, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska and the ordinances of the City of Seward, Nebraska, against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I will take this obligation freely and without mental reservation or for purpose of evasion, that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of the office of City Administrator of the City of Seward, Nebraska, according to law and to the best of my ability. And I do further swear that I do not advocate nor am I a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence, and that during such time as I am in this position, I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence, so help me God.
I do. I thought you were gonna have me repeat that.
All we need now is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, please register your votes. Please display the vote.
Motion carried, motion is at Camper Swift Pike, Schmidt, Can's motion carried.
Thank you.